actually hosted the last 3 presidents, including our very own current president, Advocate Dumaboko. So Totahela,
coming for different activities.
For different reasons, different activities, but it's always a pleasure. About the $12 million that's expected from Qatar, and we've also a billion. Yes, sorry, thank you. Hey, yeah, no, my dear Baisago.
This is Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we inspire, and we empower entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs of all stripes in BW and beyond. Hello, let me welcome you first of all to this lovely program, Mogobe Nuggets of Wisdom podcast. We enthuse, we energize, we do our best to bring life-changing business information. And today we're going to talk about education, more particularly tertiary education at the highest level. As you know, there's primary, there's secondary. Now we're talking tertiary. So I have the vice president of a premier university in the country, which is Baisago University, Amagolo, Eteng, Gabasiane. So I'm very, very excited to welcome her. But before she comes on, let me just remind you, I have a book, Nuggets of Grit, only $350. I share my life story, as you know, and it's available from 3 main places. One is Airport Junction, exclusive books. The other is Sasratsakama Airport. And of course, you can also get it from my office here on the first floor of Mogobe Plaza. Having said all that, let me ask you to do the honorable thing. Strike that subscribe button, please. Hit that notification bell, and don't forget to give us a like, because these algorithms, we have to wrestle with them. And thank you for taking the time out. So I'm really hoping to learn a lot about education, our education system, how it can be improved, the impact of private tertiary institutions such as Baisago and so on and so forth. We're going to dissect all those issues. But before we do, let me invite my guest to introduce herself and tell us what is she coming to, sort of the academic side and so on and so forth.
Thank you so much for having me, Mogobe. It's really a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I'm really excited to be able to have this conversation with you, and for you to get to know a bit about me, for me to know a bit more about you as well, and for you to kind of get an appreciation of Baisago and who we are. So my journey is an interesting one when it comes to my career, but also my educational background as well. Tatahela, maybe before we get into my educational background and what I do as well at work, I would love to tell you about where I come from. So I'm one of 4 children, to 2 lovely parents, Udirile Gabasiane and me, Ruth Tsatana Gabasiane. They are my role models. They have been very instrumental in grooming me and developing me to be the professional that I am today. So really, I'm really, really grateful for them and the role that they've played in my life. And and that's something that's quite core to who we are, because we're a family that is big on values and big on the values rona, such as boto and all these things, and these have been very critical and ingrained in us from a very young age. And so that's a little bit. I mean, of course, starting there, I think I would love to share that I think I've been in the corporate world for about 5 years now, and I know people always get
at Baisago.
Yes, at Baisago. So right out of varsity, I was at the University of Pretoria. I'm also a UP graduate, like yourself. So once I completed my Bachelor of Commerce and Investment Management at UP, I then went and started my journey go Baisago as a management trainee. So it was really beautiful to be a part of the training program, because I was exposed to the different departments and divisions at the university, and that gave me a solid footing and background in what Baisago has to offer and the different teams that work together to move the locomotive that is Baisago.
Call it a locomotive.
So Tatahela, it was a great opportunity for me to also be able to it was a great opportunity for me to also be able to appreciate fully how everyone plays a role in driving the business that is Baisago. And so I think the training program was meant to be 18 months, and it was also including our campuses, Go Francistown and Maung, over and above the head office here in Gaborone. And it was a great privilege for me to also have the chance to set my footing and to appreciate how I can come in and grow as a professional. And over that training program, I think I completed about 12 months of the 18. And it was at that point that the university said, okay, we think we've capacitated you enough to be manager of business development. And at that time, it was an office that had been vacant for about 3-4 years prior to that. So there was no activity. It was starting a team from scratch. And here I was, a substantive position, having to be able to determine what to do and the different processes and policies to put in place. But it was a great challenge, and I learned so much about myself and about the institution at that point. And from there, that was, I think, when we onboarded another team member, who's currently serving as our manager for business development, and she was also a graduate. And it was difficult, having to learn how to not just come into this new office that had been vacant, but to now onboard someone else and get them up to par and sort of guide them day to day when you were also learning as you were going. So it was quite interesting to see, go through those experiences, but with the support of many team members, especially executive management, and the shareholders and board as well would get involved. And that was able to then help me sort of push, and I think within about 18 months, I then was promoted to Director of Business Development.
Tough, the training.
It was tough. It was really, really tough. And a lot of late nights, early mornings. I know it sounds cliche, but it really was just that, putting your head down and getting right down to the business of it all. And I think it was really frustrating for me in the beginning, because here I was expected to perform in this new role. And it was often impressed upon me that this was an office that was critical to the university. And one of our core mandates was ensuring that we diversify the revenues of Baisago, so we don't just rely on tuition fee income. And here you are, you're learning a new manager, still fairly new to the university community and the university environment, and yet you are expected to be able to come forth and deliver initiatives that will grow this business that is currently 166 million pula revenue making entity. So Totahela, it was a gargantuan task, to say the least. But I appreciate now, looking back, Jorge, it was that pressure that I think has then led to the forming of a diamond. Maybe not there entirely yet, but I think it's something that I'm really grateful for.
I think it's pretty much a diamond from where I'm sitting.
Thank you, Rek.
But let me take you back before we deal with your situation. Do you have an idea as to what got the founders interested in starting a university and the initial challenges of setting it up?
Of course. It's actually funny that you ask. I think the Baisago story is one that I know like the back of my hand. And it's really because from a very early age, our parents have always involved us and engaged us in affairs concerning the business. So Totahela, it's an interesting story, one that I love to share. My parents were sitting around the dinner table, and they said, listen, here we are. This is 1999. They were sitting and saying, here we are. There's so many students, they need support in terms of how to further their studies, how to enhance themselves. And they then started with tutorial classes, and they said, Banabarona, to ensure that we can give them the support to ensure that they pass and excel in their studies, preparing them for varsity. Let's see if we can't provide tuition services, tutorial services to Bana Barona. And so they started, it was Baisago Institute at that time, which then was started in 2001. And we started off with just taking learners and onboarding groups and saying, here ra go le ruta English, mathematics, and we capacitate and build on what you're being taught in school so that we can enhance your skill set and prepare you for varsity. So that's where it started. It was really saying, here we are, bana ba rona ba bangwe they're struggling, some ga ba pase sente. What can we do to ensure that they're able to get to varsity and that they're able to get these opportunities that some weren't being able to pursue? So it started there really, and it was around that time as well that they said there's so many of I think bana ba Botswana ba e leng gore were studying abroad, and they Maji and Mr. G sat down and said, how can we come in as well to support this? And they're both educationists. They have trained and been
taking the view that it would be a lot cheaper to train them at home than overseas.
Yes, but even prior to that, at that time, around 2001, really, that was the time that they started organizing career fairs, the national career fairs, where they would gather institutions from South Africa, Australia,
were they doing all that?
The UK.
Where did they start? Where did it all start?
It was the fact that bana ba le bantsi ba Botswana would want to explore options of institutions they could go to abroad, but they didn't have that opportunity to engage with these institutions and to gauge their different options.
So physically, what was going on? Where was there a campus somewhere?
We actually started Go Commerce Park, and that is where Baisago had started. And
yes, I remember seeing it there, yeah.
So Honeko Commerce Park is where they would feed these ideas, and then they would use Buipuso Hall, and then they would host these different universities from all over the world and provide an opportunity for Banaba Botswana to come and their parents, their guardians, to engage with these universities. And this is well before Nakotsabu, the HRDC fair that we see. So Tatahela Baisago has always been a pioneer in this space, in that before anyone else was doing it, whether government or private institutions, our shareholders, the visionaries themselves, had seen the need for us to facilitate this. So Tatahela, that's where it all started, but it's always been out of a love for education and human capital development and empowering Botswana through education in whatever form.
In your case personally, at what point did you get involved in the, let's call it the family business, the education business, which is the family business?
So formally, I started Go Baisago in 2020. But prior to that, my parents had always been very intentional about having conversations about Baisago and succession planning. So I think the earliest conversation was maybe Hakebala Form 2. And the time, I think I was studying at a boarding school in Pretoria. And they had started having conversations where now you're choosing subjects and you have to sort of plot your career path. And at the time, I had wanted to pursue studies in music because I play the saxophone and the clarinet. And my parents had said, degree in music, but parents being Botswana, unfortunately. So then I said, okay, because I'm curious about the human mind, I would love to study psychology. And I think they said, no, this is not practical. So for them, I think the angle that I didn't necessarily have it in mind at that point was they were looking at a career path that would align with the interest of the business and their interest to, of course, eventually retire. So in that sense, then the conversation was choose something that is more aligned to the corporate world, a more maybe traditional line of work. But I wanted to ensure that whatever it is that I chose was something that I love. So instead of just accounting, I thought, I've always been curious about how to make money, how to grow your wealth. It's always been something that I've always wanted to be independent financially as well. So I then got curious and I learned about investment management. And I said, I think that is it. That is as practical as I can go. And so really from then we started talking about how do we take this curiosity for investment management and then link that to Tiro ya Baisago. Maybe you can come teach, maybe you can come and set up a team or work in our finance team so that you can advise on investments and anything of that sort. So the conversation started gradually happening from around high school. And it was conversations that it wasn't just with me, but even with my two older brothers and my younger sister, it was the same.
With all the siblings. Now, talk about the family business and the dynamics of that and succession planning?
Okay, so I think this one has always been interesting because we have 4 shareholders. It's 100% citizen-owned company, and our 4 shareholders are all siblings. So it's the MD and one of his brothers. It's Gabasiane, who's of course my mother, and one of her sisters, or one of her siblings. And so the 4 of them are the shareholders of the institution. And really for them, all of them also are educationists, and they all have a love for empowering people through education. So human capital development is very close to their hearts. And so really for them, I think in the recent years, especially from around 2010, 2012, they realized that they needed to be forward thinking. And the MD, I think when the time the business was started, I think he was 40. And so now here we are. Baisago was 24 this year, turning 25 in February.
Wow.
So they realized, Lebone, that listen, there's going to come a time when we won't necessarily be as agile as we would like to be, a time when we need to slow down and retire. But we recognize that we've invested so much into this entity. Financially, we've given our heart, our blood, sweat, and tears. We can't just then let it die, or then have someone come in and possibly down the line the business we see exactly. So they said, who can carry on the torch better than one of our own, Banabarona. And so then they started having these conversations, and then amongst themselves they had agreed, listen, we need to bring in
Banabarona. You all brought in?
No, we weren't. So these were conversations that a lot of the time they would have them Balefogo, and then of course they would engage with our board of directors, of course, to ensure that we adhere to corporate governance principles. But we were brought in, I think, on an individualistic basis. So the first person to start working for the family business out of all of us, their children, it was my eldest brother, Ame. And he went and he was working with the Maun campus. So he was our assistant campus manager. He had also been campus administrator at a point. So he was our hands,
still
feet.
Running that campus.
He's just recently started transitioning out of the business because he's starting his own entity. So so it's those kind of intricacies of, you want to ensure that you support your parents and their vision, and you ensure there's longevity in the business, but how do you also ensure that you also remain true to yourself and you pursue the things that you love?
Wow.
So he has decided that I've served Baisago, I think it's almost a decade that he was with Baisago, but I also really owe it to myself to do something that I love.
Something that I enjoy.
So Totahala, we would be brought in, and then, for instance, myself, it was just, we want you to appreciate the entire spectrum of the business. And then that's when we were able to suss out that I could go along the side of business development and corporate services. I didn't really have an interest or a desire to teach. So I think that was just naturally the progression. And then my younger sister...
So you are teaching?
No, sir. It wasn't my interest. I had gone to the corporate side of the business through the business.
You preferred to just do the business and management side of things.
Yes, sir.
Now, how do you manage talent there? Talk about talent management.
So as a result of the succession planning conversations, we then realized that I think it's also been interesting in that initially there was this stance or this belief that succession planning was just about who in the family is next. But it's so much bigger than that. It's about saying, here's this institution that we've built. How do we ensure that it stands the test of time? It's Libre University of Pretoria, who've been around for over 120 years.
Wow.
Harvard, who are talking about 200 years and so forth. So it was about legacy building. And so we said legacy can't be built by just family. And so it was... we need something that will guide us in terms of succession planning as a whole. So while Amagolo may be here, Banabarona and so forth, they can't do it alone. And so we then developed a succession planning policy which really outlines how we should go about succession planning and integrate this into the day-to-day workings of the business. But we also do have a talent management and development framework that has said these are the critical positions in the institution. And we need to ensure that for each of these positions, we are grooming and nurturing the talent so so that they can also not just satisfy the requirements of these positions, but also grow. But even for those positions, we have understudies. We are intentional about understudies who can learn from those who are in those positions at the moment so that they can take the baton from them. So it's about intentionally grooming people up. And as younger people come in, then we see the fruits of this being born, because then we're able to take people and right from school, we build them. We see people moving from officer to manager, director, up the ranks. So we're really intentional about it, especially in the last 3-4 years.
Yes. You have a very beautiful hall, the one that I've been invited to a few times to speak, to give talks, to be part of different panels. What's the role of that hall in terms of the general scheme of things, and how has it enhanced the long-term planning in terms of perspective of going forward as an institution?
So the convention center Yarona actually was...
It's not even called a hall, it's a convention center.
So the Baisago Convention Center was actually, it's part of phase 1 going into phase 2 of our Grand Master Plan. And so with the Grand Master Plan, while we had envisioned certain spaces for the benefit of our students, for teaching and learning activities, we also said we're a private business and we can't just be thinking about one revenue stream. We need to ensure that we have revenue streams that are diverse, so that in the event one suffers or one struggles, we have something that can support that or stand in lieu of that. So that was one thing that was really intentional about it. And that investment was something that we looked at the fact that we wanted to be able to make incomes from renting out the facilities. At some point, we were also serving as an examination center for UNISA, and we were getting revenues from that in terms of hosting people for exams. And so we said, but our core business as the university is to teach, to educate, to empower, research, and so forth. Why don't we create a separate outfit still under the Baisago Holdings Group that can be primarily focused on promoting these facilities and making sure that there's a revenue that comes in, not just waiting for people to come. So we then established in 2017 Baisago Events and Marketing, which is a sister company of the university. And BEM, as we call it, is a company still small, but we're growing. And we've been able to host a number of events. We've hosted BNSC, we've hosted the Sports Awards, we've hosted several of our former presidents. Big and small, we do it all. And so we see Totahela.
You've had former presidents?
Yes, so we have.
Doing what?
We for different events. We've hosted a range of different political parties. We are, of course, apolitical as an institution. And so we've hosted a number of their functions. But we also had the opening of the convention center officiated by the former president, Re Sesaratakama Ian Kama. And so, and even recently, we've actually hosted the last 3 presidents, including our very own current president, Advocate Dumaboko. So Totahela,
coming for different activities.
For different reasons, different activities, but it's always a pleasure to host and meet with people at the facility. So it's really great, and I think for our students as well, it's also provided a space where they can have events as well. But part of that project linked to the time that we were doing the constructing the convention center, we also established the Mabaling Sporting Complex, where we have the 5-a-side fields.
I like that thing. I've had my team participate there. Once Standard Chartered invited us as our clients when I was still a client of Standard Chartered. It was great.
No, even recently we hosted a number of banks. They come, they play, and they league, and it's a beautiful thing to see. They may be competitors out, 8 to 5 they're competitors, and Livla Maitiwa, they come, friendly games, and it's a beautiful sight to see, really. So it's really been something that has shown the importance of diversifying our revenues and how that can really augment our business and ensuring that there's continuity in what we do.
Generational wealth must be inclusive, empowering women, youth, underserved communities. As a woman leader at Baisago, can you speak to these ideals?
I think for me, people love the buzzwords of inclusivity and youth empowerment, but it's very important for us to live these things. You said it yourself, these ideals. An ideal is an ideal until you actually do something and execute.
Yes.
And I've seen that many people talk the talk but don't walk it. So for me, I think one thing that has always been critical, even from my experiences being at Baisago, is it's so important to have representation, and it's so important to be inclusive and to ensure that there's equity in what we do. This is not something for the purposes of affirmative action, but we see the value that it brings to our businesses, and it actually contributes to the bottom line as well. And for me, really, I think 2 years ago, our exco team at Baisago was dominated by men. And what that means is that the conversations, you have similar views, similar perspectives, and similar ways of doing things.
Too much masculine energy there.
I don't want to say that, but there would be those similarities. So when you bring in a woman or someone who's younger with different perspectives, it enables your conversations to be fuller, to be more diverse, more comprehensive, rather than having a singular view on things. So for me, it's always been quite critical to ensure that we're intentional about empowering young people, because at the end of the day, 10, 15, 20 years from now, I would probably be in a different stage of my life, looking at different priorities, but Baisago has to still be around. So we need to ensure that, so that there's a smooth transition, we bring up and we groom and we nurture young talent so that they can transition seamlessly into the world of work and take up space in positions of leadership as well. And even for women, I think a lot of the times we speak about how women in over the years have often been overlooked, not necessarily because they don't have the skills or the expertise. And so it's important that we bring women into the conversation, of course, on the basis of merit as well, to ensure that we are holistic and inclusive in our decision making as well. Because if you have a team that is primarily made up of men and your staff complement actually is 52% women and 48% men, then some of your decisions may be to the detriment of a significant portion of your staffing complement. And so it's important that when there's representation, when we make decisions for all, and we're inclusive in our approach to things.
Now, I've heard people in the education space complain that there tends to be too much dependency on government in terms of funding and financing the education of students and so on and so forth. To what extent is that a weakness or a strength, depending on how you look at it?
I like the latter part of what you said, a strength. I think it's both a strength and a weakness. It's very true. And I think for Baisago, the bulk of our revenue is from government. And while one may argue that whether government pays on time or not, you're sure that you'll get your dues. That's
Eventually.
one thing that you say can be a strength, that to some extent it's, your business will be a going concern because you're sure that the money will come eventually. However, the problem is if government faces challenges, and I think it's no secret that we've been experiencing challenges and we're trying to raise revenues and we see what's being done. The impact is when our revenues are received late, that impacts the day-to-day workings of our business. And so at the end of the day, students will need equipment for their sporting games. They will need projectors and other things that they need for a conducive learning environment and for a good teaching and learning experience. And so at that point, it's not about whether government has paid you or not. And yet, if you're looking at that income and you're relying on it, and yet you have certain things that you need to pay, bank schemes to pay for, you need to ensure that working capital is catered for, it can put great and immense pressure on your business. So that's why it's really important to diversify, so that while government does contribute meaningfully and in a great way that we appreciate, to our businesses, if we rely on government, it also can really put us in a tight spot in terms of a risk perspective as well.
What about the current refrain? Government doesn't have money, government is broke, when you hear it on social media. Is it affecting you? Is it true in the real sense?
No, it's affecting us in a very real sense. I think, to give you an example, we had, I think, invoices that were due in the earlier part of this year, and we had payments that were coming 3-4 months late. And we're talking about payments that when we budget for the year, we had planned and said, from a cash flow management perspective, when these dues come, we'll focus on project A, project B. This investment will be done to grow this business and even just for the normal running. And so when the revenues don't come in, which has been a reality, especially at the time that you anticipate, then it impacts, and now you have to be reactive, and you see they're private students, what do we prioritize, what do we leave? And then you also have to manage relationships, because a supplier will provide a service and they will expect to be paid, and so the challenge is where you go 2-3 months and you have these constraints in terms of your cash flows. The supplier is just concerned about, give me my dues. That is a problem between you and those who are concerned. So we feel the pinch, but we of course are grateful in the sense that in as much as it's delayed, the money comes through. But
eventually. So it's tough. Do you think in terms of the general economy, it's just a temporary thing, or does it seem to be more entrenched?
That's a good question. I think maybe because I'm an optimist, I think it's a sign of the times, but this too shall pass. I think we see efforts currently underway with our current administration. I was reading up just yesterday about the $12 million that's expected from Qatar, and we've also a billion. Yes, sorry, thank you. Hey, so the 12 billion. So I think for me, it's we can accept that there have been shortcomings and things that have led us to be where we are right now. But I do appreciate that there are efforts that are being made intentionally to bring revenues into the country. And we see a lot of work being done to go and raise capital and to bring money into the country. So I do believe that it shall pass. And I think it's important for us to then ensure that if government could actually buy into and actually practice public-private partnerships, there's a whole lot more that we could do together. But we tend to be working in our different corners, and yet there's so much more to be achieved if we work collaboratively.
I'm in the real estate space, as you know, and we have hosted over the last 7 years students from Baisago who have come on an attachment. And I've noticed, even if you look at the real estate professionals in the practicing now, that Baisago has had quite an impact. How intentional was it on the part of Baisago to have this impact, and what does it do to you in terms of a sense of pride when you see the impact you are having in the marketplace as a trainee of real estate professionals?
Right from the outset, from shareholder level down to executive management, the university has always been intentional about seeing where there's a gap in the market and filling that gap. So it could be very easy for us as Baisago to offer programs that have been in the market for donkey years. But it has always been an intentional thing to say, listen, here, I think this was 2008, 2007, where our MD and a number of our management team members sat and they said, we have so many people who are estate agents in the country, but almost all of them don't have or aren't licensed to do this. But
they
these
call them fly-by-nights. I know you don't want to call them that.
I don't. But these are people who, this is their bread and butter. And there was a time, I think this was the time that there was to be, I think a new dispensation was to be put in place that those who did not have licenses would no longer be permitted to serve as estate agents. So here you have thousands of people who for many, many years have been selling real estate, buying and in that space. And now here you have a threat to their livelihoods, to their families. And so Baisago said, here we can meet a need, we can close a gap. Let us develop a program that will be particular to the real estate sector and these professionals and practitioners, to capacitate them, to develop them and to certify them so that they can have a qualification. And that is actually how we developed our certificate in real estate. And we actually had such an influx of people that came in, and we have graduated thousands actually from this discipline, and we continue to see real estate as one of our leading programs at the university. And so when we saw that there was this desire and this appetite at certificate level, people said, well, we want to upskill, we want to learn more.
So now there's also a diploma and degree.
There was a diploma, we developed a degree, and we're actually waiting for accreditation of our Master of Science in Real Estate and Real Estate Investment and Finance.
Wow.
So we're saying we have graduates as well who have done the BCom real estate. We want to help you take it a step further and get your master's in a related
And
field.
this is translated in the real sense to the market, because if you see even the current leadership of RIB and
Yes.
RIAC, you know, they're
Bana
graduates
Baisago.
of, and I have tenants here, such as Opelo, for instance, who did your programs.
Irra.
And as I said, for 6 or 7 years, we've had people from Baisago dominate the space. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Now, in terms of real estate itself, could you just share what capacity you have, so that people can appreciate what sort of training they can receive there, and what sort of people you have there in terms of your staff?
Irra. All right. Thank you very much. So, for now, we have the programs that are in line with real estate. We have the certificate, the diploma, and the degree in real estate. And we're just awaiting accreditation for the master's in real estate investment and finance. So in terms of the long-term programs, we have those, but we do also have a number of short learning programs offered through our Center for Professional Development and Consultancy. So you would have recently accredited, we have an asset management program, we have those speaking to a state agency, and so we have a whole plethora of programs that we can really sort of, I think, put in a portfolio for our real estate practitioners. And even in terms of our faculty, we have highly qualified, highly skilled faculty members from all over, really. And what, of course, with BQA requirements, if you're teaching a Bachelor of Commerce, you have to have at least the master's to teach that program. So that shows you that for the fact that we have been teaching BCom, our lecturers do have masters in real estate, some it's real estate investment and finance, and then we do even have those with PhDs, and that is how we were able to develop the Master of Science that is awaiting accreditation. So we do have lecturers, some have been trained and developed locally, others have trained in Zim, in South Africa at the University of Cape Town, others have gone as far as London and Australia, and they have come, and these are the pool of people that we have teaching and empowering our students in that regard.
Okay. Is there any other programs or any other area of commerce where you've impacted the market like you've done in real estate?
Oh yes, banking and finance comes to mind. Banking and finance is a big one. It's actually interesting. In the last 2-3 years, we saw our banking and finance numbers sort of reducing gradually, and we thought that this might be a sign of the fact that maybe the market has enough professionals in the banking and finance space. And then we saw this complete upsurge this year, where we had I think more than double of our projected students enrolling for the banking and finance program. And while we have the banking and finance degree, we also have it at master's level, and that is offered through our School of Graduate Studies and Research, which has been in existence for about 4 years now. So similar to that one, really, we found that about a decade or so, there were a lot of people working in the financial services industry, but particularly in banking. And you'd find someone would maybe be a bank teller, but didn't have any requisite experience or knowledge or related qualification. And so we said, but these are the people who are serving us, and they need to have the grounding and the foundation so that they can actually flourish in their positions. And so we said, let us curate a program that will respond and speak directly to the banking sector. And so that's how we came up with the banking and finance, and we saw many people coming from banks, various
So
banks.
banks are sponsoring these people?
We did have some banks sponsoring their people or their staff to come and study with Baisago. And recently, with one of our niche programs, the BCom in fiscal studies, we actually had a cohort from the Botswana Unified Revenue Services come through for the fiscal studies program. And so this is really our way of, it comes back to not just saying, are offering accounting as a degree. Yes, it's great to have the degree, but are you actually contributing to what the labor market needs right now? And we see, every year HRDC releases its priority areas for training. And we see now that we have TVET, which is a big and topical thing at the moment. Maybe that's our buzzword for this year. We have agriculture having been mentioned. And so for us, we see that as where we kind of get the opportunity. And then we say, okay, what do we have in terms of agriculture? And we're actually in the works of bringing forth another program in agriculture, but we recently accredited I think it was a Bachelor of Science in Agricultural Economics. So this is our way of responding to the labor market needs and ensuring that we remain relevant as an entity as well.
Okay. I've seen in the recent past, I don't know whether 7 years, when you metamorphosed from a college to a university, what did that entail, and what significant differences are there between you being a college and you being a university now?
Okay. So I think it was June 2015 when we received, I think that's when we received our accreditation status as a fully fledged university. And
it's already been 10 years.
Erra.
Oh, okay.
So Tatahela, it was something that it was years of work. And I think, of course, BQA has guidelines and regulations speaking to that, but it looks at your infrastructure, whether you are able to then fully support all the activities of a fully fledged university. It also speaks to the caliber of staff. And this is where you start seeing the fact that BQA prescribes that for you to teach a BCom or a bachelor's degree, you have to have a master's. So for us, it was also about ensuring that we had the staffing to be able to deliver these programs. And what was quite critical is having your own programs that you can offer to the market. And what was quite critical was then saying we need experts who can develop these programs that are relevant and aligned to the market. And we need to be able to do that in-house. So that was quite another critical factor. But you will find in a lot of other countries, if you offer certificate programs only, you can't be deemed as a fully fledged university. I think Botswana is unique in the fact that you can offer certificates and a diploma and yet still be deemed university or university college. And so I think recently we had these guidelines being reviewed and we're quite curious actually to see what the results of that would be, because I
hope you're part of the review process.
No, we have had...
They shouldn't determine your fate in your absence.
No, they are very consultative. We have representatives from various institutions, including ours, that were part of that engagement. So we've put forth our views and our recommendations. And one thing really for us is the BQA would prescribe certain regulations, such as the number of computers you need to have or the number of books you need in a library. And some of the guidelines that we were contesting were in an age of digitization. So can we really be talking about physical books in a library for you to be a university? Should we not be talking holistically about e-books and e-resources that can supplement and complement a traditional library? So...
Well, you keep everything in the cloud.
Exactly. So we have to be up with, I think, with the times. And I think sometimes, respectfully, we tend to, especially in public institutions, I think, we tend to move a whole lot slower than the rate at which the world moves. So while private sector may be far ahead in terms of regulations, we tend to be quite slow to respond to the changes in the relevant spaces.
Thank you for that answer. Access to capital. We hear a lot about how difficult it is to access capital. And I know as a business person that it is quite a challenging situation. How did you guys maneuver?
So over the years, when Baisago started, it was fully funded by the shareholders. But of course, in your individual capacity, even if there are 4 shareholders, there's only so much you can do. And as the business grows and its requirements grow as well, there's no way we can expect four shareholders to fully fund the business of Baisago. And so this has really shown the importance of us being able to have relations and to bring on board parties that believe in the vision of Baisago. Because for us, we've always been quite intentional to say, we don't want someone to finance Baisago for the sake of financing it. We want you to buy into the vision and the dream and the aspirations of Baisago and the long term of it. So we've had, once upon a time when it was still around, Bill Holdings was a funder of Baisago and was able to help us secure the premises where we are, Khoneha, Block 7.
Bill Holdings is no longer around.
Is that not so?
I don't know.
I don't think they're around anymore. And then we also had FNB come on as a financier. FNB actually financed, I think, the convention center in the Mabaling Sporting Complex. And so FNB was as a major player really in the history of Baisago. And most recently, we've also had the Botswana Development Corporation, BDC, and BDC has invested also significantly and greatly in Baisago. And BDC came in at a time when really we were facing dire challenges in the business, and BDC came in really and supported Baisago, bought into the vision and provided funding that has not only alleviated the business from its pressures, but also caused us to be able to grow to where we are now. And as well as Bank Gaborone, they've also come in to support the university and provide financing in that regard. So we find...
What about the likes of SEDA?
Lisida as well. They're very important. So these are, when we make reference to these different players in the market, Baisago would not be where it is today without them. I think by now Baisago would have collapsed without their investment. And so it really for us it signals the importance of being able to raise capital. But we do face challenges really in terms of raising capital locally. I think some people will think education is a risky thing. And I know they'll say, oh, but really, from a moral sense, can you come and close a school if it's not meeting its commitments?
There's a joke that if you think education is expensive, try ignorance.
Exactly that. So, Tata Hela, I think
we have to invest in education.
100%. So I think sometimes investors will see educational institutions the way they see churches. Is that really a space that we want to play in? But really, for us, we see that Baisago has grown to a point where we're not just an educational institution teaching Botswana, but we are a business that has really grown in stature, and it's like any other corporate institution or corporate organization in the country. And because we also ensure that we adhere to corporate governance principles, it's something that we also want to give the investor confidence. So we are always, I think even now, as we want to transition into the next stage and to invest in other projects that we have envisioned, we are also looking locally and internationally to raise capital and see how we can help take Baisago to the next level.
So you talked about phases, and you're talking about transitioning to the next phase. What phase is that? What phases are you at now? Help me understand.
So
as we celebrate Baisago, because we're really celebrating. I remember when I arranged this interview with your dad, it was initially to celebrate the 20 years. Now you're getting closer to 25 years.
No, we'll follow up and make sure that at least by the time we turn at 25, he's come to meet with you.
Yes.
So, Tata Hela, in terms of, I think we can talk about it in two prongs. From an infrastructural perspective, we have $1 billion worth of a Grand Master Plan. And in that Grand Master Plan, we have a 6-story building that is meant to take our teaching and learning facilities to the next level.
6 floors.
6 floors. Within that master plan, we also have an Olympic-sized pool, not just for our students to enjoy for recreational purposes, but also as a way of bringing additional revenues as well. And part of that, we have other student-friendly spaces like an amphitheater where they can gather in between classes and augment the student experience, because we do want to be competing with international institutions in that regard. And then in terms of I guess the overall business and the transition of it, we're at a stage where we have master developing programs at certificate, diploma, and degree level, and even master's level. And we're actually awaiting accreditation of our first PhD in business management. So we also want to get to a level where we're able to offer the entire spectrum of offerings that you would find in any other higher educational institution. But over and above that, with our 3 campuses, we want to ensure that the experience of a learner mo Gaborone is the same experience that they get go Francistown, go Maung. And with Maung especially, one of the key projects for us is Maung being one of the tourism hubs of the country. We want to make that the base of our School of Hospitality, Travel, Tourism and Wildlife Management.
Because you have a campus there.
We do. It's our smallest campus. We recently moved campuses, and the idea for that really was to have more space for, of course, being able to offer more programs, but also to give our students a bigger space where they can have a bigger home and be more at ease. So we're hoping that will help us also to grow in terms of offering corporate training in that area, because we see that a lot of the times we tend to focus on training those in the south, and we often do that to the neglect of those in the north. And so that is also one of the reasons why, though other institutions have pulled out of Maung, we have remained go Maung, because we're saying if we leave, if we leave, who will educate those and capacitate them? So it's really quite critical. And we see that, with the proximity to the Delta and Kasane not being far from that as well, we have to ensure that we're close enough for people to get access to the education they seek.
Okay. If you talk numbers, what can you share? How many pupils? How many lecturers? How big is this institution?
In terms of staffing, we have about 300 members of staff across all of our campuses. And that is both administrative staff and our faculty members.
Oh.
And then we also have... it's about almost 4,000 students actually at Baisago, and 4,000 may not seem like a big number.
It is big
but
to me.
So I know Amagolo hit the 10,000 mark. I think it was at about two or so years.
If you include all the other bits and pieces, it could be closer to 20.
So Totahela, for us looking at our organic growth over the years, this is a major feat for us, and for us to reach the 4,000 mark is quite a milestone. So that spread, of course, we have about 78% of the students being in Gaborone, because it is our biggest campus. And then we have 18% of our learners go Francistown, and the remainder go Maung.
Okay. Is there something you can say sets you apart from the other tertiary institutions? Is there like, if you like, a distinguishing mark that says Baisago, or a set of values that you say sets you apart?
I think, Hela, it has always been our business philosophy to ensure that we don't run with or swim with the tide or go with the tide. It's always been for us to say, what is it that we can do to contribute meaningfully to human capital development? And for us, it's really been, it comes back to not wanting to offer the same old programs. We want to ensure that the programs that we offer position not just Botswana, because now we're actually really intentional about internationalization, but the SADC region and beyond. And so when we have programs like a Bachelor of Education in Special and Inclusive Education, we know how important it is to be inclusive, and that's actually one of our values, that we actually changed our values in the last year. So inclusivity is one of our new values, and we're saying we can't just have it as a value, but it should also be there in terms of our offerings. And even as we're trying to also ensure that we're intentional about diversity, equity, and inclusion, we also need to ensure that we are doing our part to empower people and give them the knowledge on how to educate learners with special needs. So those kinds of programs, risk management and insurance. We also we're the only institution that offers actuarial sciences as a program. So where you'd find people would go...
Is there a big demand for that among insurance companies and so on?
I think the uptake has been lower than anticipated, really. And I think for us, it's a call to action to say we need to do a whole lot more, because it is a good program. Botswana, we find that the bulk of insurance or financial services companies, they source their actuaries from South Africa, from the UK, and so forth. And funny enough, at the time that we had submitted this program for accreditation to BQA, BQA has what they bring about experts and they pull them together to review the program that's been developed to say, program, is it relevant to the profession? Does it cover the key topics? Is this in order with what industry would need? But the time that BQA was looking for professionals and experts, actuaries to evaluate, they couldn't find them locally. And so this is why we said, this is why we need this program. And it actually took 7 years.
It made the case for you.
It made the case, but you wouldn't believe it took 7 years for the program to be accredited. And we even had to go to the extent of saying, we can get you in touch with actuaries in South Africa, in Glasgow, in London, so that you can actually use them. We consulted them as we were developing this program.
For them to help them evaluate what you're coming up with.
Because at the time, BQA didn't have the capacity and was not able to then assess and validate and accredit this program.
So were you able to do that?
We were, and I think we have our third cohort of students in actuarial science. So we're yet to have.
I think the reason there's no uptake is that nobody knows you're doing that. Nobody knows enough.
Perhaps we're too humble as Baisago.
Maybe you also need to have a concerted outreach into the market to talk about it. But as you said, there's a lot of modesty there.
Definitely.
I'm having my problem again. The other thing that I want to find out from you has to do with legacy. In terms of, we've touched on intergenerational wealth transfer, but legacy, that is something that most of our local businesses are struggling with, to the point where when the founder goes, that's the end. Or almost the end. You've already indicated you have 100-year outlook, your long-term outlook, but can you put substance to that?
So I think our concerted effort, Baisago, really to ensure that we are intentional about legacy building, I think is envisioned in those two frameworks that I spoke about in terms of succession and talent management. And so what we've been doing over I'll speak about the last 3-4 years, because that's where the most intentionality I think has been. It's about saying we've identified, I think it's about 32 critical positions at the university. And we've also identified, 32 people who we also want to develop and groom. And it's not just on the corporate services side of the business, but also in terms of the academic side as well, because that is our core business. And so we have said, we actually have a benefit to staff whereby if you are an employee Baisago and you want to pursue further studies, if we offer the program at Baisago, say, like yourself, let's say you've done the diploma in real estate and you seek to do the BCom in real estate, because we offer the program, we offer you 100% scholarship. So that is one of the benefits that you actually have as an employee Baisago. So that is our way of saying we shouldn't just expect people to develop themselves and upskill, but Ronar, as an employer and as an educational institution, what can we do to also ensure that our staff get to the level that we have envisaged for them? So the talent management framework.
The staff are given free opportunities to
upskill,
even up to degree,
masters, PhD.
Wow.
So long as you're going up that ladder by Saho and we have the program, then we will sponsor you 100%.
You're putting the time and the effort also.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
it's a great investment that we're making.
Wow.
I think the first cohort that completed their masters by Saho was 2023, and we had about 11 of our employees who completed their studies. So another thing is we don't just extend that benefit. Also, in terms of staff retention, we don't just extend that benefit to the staff, but if your spouse wants to further their studies, we offer you 50% scholarship on that. So these are some of the ways that we're saying as we're developing these people within our system, how can we also keep them so that we don't spend time and money developing amagolo ka moso a ba go sele. So these are some of the initiatives that we put in place, and then even in the form of short courses through our CPDC, the center that I mentioned earlier. If I have an interest in maybe supervisory skills and management to be capacitated in that regard, then the university, where they're able to get a class of external parties in, would then provide an opportunity. You take on that program and you don't pay anything at all.
Yeah.
So these are some of the ways that we are ensuring that we are empowering our people to also climb up that ladder, so that we have people who are highly skilled. And even it may seem simple, but even the level of engagement, you'll find a lot of the times people will talk about how it's difficult to have access to your exco. But ko Baisago, our executive management and senior leadership teams.
Exco referring to the executive committee. Yeah.
So they meet and engage with staff at all levels to ensure that we are also giving them access, and they come for meetings and engagements so that they can learn how to go about some of these things. We bring them on board for certain projects so that they can be exposed to this and learn about the inner workings of the company, so that tomorrow they can be the ones doing it themselves.
Yeah. But the future of the company is safe so far as other things. When I was there for about 2 years ago, I saw a lot of importance being given to planting of trees. Trees everywhere. I think if I'm not mistaken, you are the only institution where there are trees literally right around and they're all green 24/7. What is this obsession about the environment and trees? Of course, it's a positive, but I want you to speak to that.
So I think it actually a lot points back to our MD. He has a green thumb. He's a landscaper himself. It's a passion of his, and he's recently gotten into farming, so he's an avid farmer as well these days. So Totahela for him, even if you go and visit him at home, our garden at home is exactly the same. Just lush, beautiful gardens, and we wanted to ensure that we can replicate the same ko Baisago. Where there's a green environment, it's a conducive environment, and we also have found that our students also enjoy that, because you can go and sit under the shade of a tree in between lectures, and so it also provides a great environment and a great space to be in. So that really was, while it was coming from a place of passion on the part of the MD, it's something that we've actually said, we need to ensure that we keep up the level of investment and maybe even do more to ensure that this continues to be a beautiful space, a conducive space. And this is one of the reasons
beautiful.
Why
it's unique in that sense.
And that's why they love coming through for weddings because of that space. Some will just use the garden, some will go to the hall and use the garden. So it's really, it's a beautiful space. And I think when we talk about sustainable development goals as well, and we talk about climate action, we also recognize the part that we have to play in greening up our environment and ensuring that we can also reduce our carbon footprint where we can.
In terms of the academics, do you do some of that as well?
We do, and I think with on the academic side as well, we actually have introduced a Master of Science in Climate Change and Sustainable Development.
Wow.
And again, this is us being responsive to the needs of the market. Climate change. So
there are students doing that as we speak?
They are. We do have students. So for us, really, it comes back to what role can we play as Baisago in tackling some of these issues that we face in the world, climate change being one of them. And so we also have a Center for Climate Change and Entrepreneurship. And for us, it was really to say, how can we also ensure that there's research that we're doing on climate change, there's advocacy work, and even teaching and learning in that environment. So,
No, this is great. This is fantastic. Now, you see other universities such as, I won't mention names, having sisterships or associations with other institutions elsewhere. What does Baisago have in that regard?
Okay. I think in the early years of Baisago, we had a collaboration with the University of South Africa, UNISA. But at the time, we were a franchisee of UNISA, so we were offering UNISA programs. We also worked with Boston City Campus in Gauteng, and we were also offering their programs. We were a licensee. So this was really us bringing programs that we didn't have at the time and being able to offer them here. But that was, I think, over a decade or so ago. And then we then explored other collaborative partnerships with the likes of the National University of Science and Technology in Zim. And that NUST was quite critical really in helping us develop or offer the Bachelor of Commerce and Risk Management and Insurance, the Master of Commerce and Risk Management and Insurance, as well as the Banking and Finance Discipline and Actuarial Science. So these collaborations, we actually, in prior years, we had our risk management and insurance students going to NUST for the graduation in addition to the 1 year Baisago.
It's ongoing, isn't it?
Pardon?
The collaborations are still ongoing.
We still are working with NUST, and with UNISA, that is, we've stopped. We no longer offer UNISA and Boston City Campus programs.
Because you have your own, which have been accredited.
So for us as well, it comes down to, in as much as we can draw from what the international market has, we know the Botswana market and the needs of the market, so we should also be able to develop programs that respond directly to that.
Let's talk about mental health and staff wellness and that sort of thing. Let's talk a little bit about what the Baisago team is doing there to bolster such issues.
I think, would I be generalizing too much? I think for many years we haven't really, I think mental health has been a taboo sort of topic. And I'm really grateful to see that in recent years we have opened up more and more and seen the need for us to be intentional about mental health, not just in our personal lives, but even in the workplace. And so Baisago, we have crafted what we call an employee assistance program. And what we're trying to do, it's still failing you, is working with counselors, psychologists to be able to give staff access to these services. Because we recognize, yes, while HR is for the employer and the employee, some people would be more comfortable talking to an independent psychologist or counselor for those psychosocial services. And even in terms of certain initiatives, we recognize that in the past we may not have done. So do you make
counselors available from your
So it's something that is currently in
staff,
the works.
or how does it work?
The idea is for all staff to be able to have access to that. So we're currently in the process of trying to lock that in to ensure that staff have those services, whether it is on a regular basis or on a block release type of basis. So that's one of the things that's in the works that we hope to close in the next few months or so. And I think another thing would just be certain initiatives that we have on campus for, I think, the recent men's health month that was recent. We had a session where they were able to sit last year and we called a counselor, we called an HR practitioner, and we gave men a safe space to just talk about their experiences as men, not just mutirong, but even at home as well. And they were able to open up, and I know our HR director was so happy when some of the men came and said, this was such a refreshing thing for us. We don't get the chance to speak about how we feel and all these things that weigh on us. We carry the weight of being strong and being men and being masculine.
Not allowed to cry.
So they really appreciated that space and that time. So
and is it an annual thing?
We had it last year. We had it this year, so we're hoping to make it an annual thing in addition to other initiatives. We had a similar thing on International Women's Day for the ladies, and there are also other activities that the HR team will also coordinate throughout the year. So we still want to do more. We want to be more intentional about it, and we're even actually reviewing our HR team to ensure that we have someone who's intentional and focused on wellness initiatives.
Okay, Vice President of Baisago, that's a heavy title.
It is.
Can you take us through a day in the life of the VP?
I think, I wish I could. I think the bulk of it is meetings. I don't know, we have this, I don't know if it's an obsession or maybe it's just the world of work.
It's the only thing that you work through is meetings.
Meeting is so, but I mean, over and above that, I think an early morning, of course, I think for me, something that has been fundamental in my journey, even in work, has just been, I think, my faith. I think that sometimes is the thing that keeps me sane. So, of course,
tell us about that faith.
Yes, I love my God. So waking up in the morning, I can't start my day without prayer. If I do, I can feel that I'm off balance.
Are you Seventh-day Adventist?
No. Okay, I'm Pentecostal. I go to Bible Life Ministries.
Okay.
All my life, actually.
Because your dad used to be Adventist. He
was, and he loves Dipina tsa Sabata. But we then went to Pentecostal, and I think for me, I've been happy all throughout my life. So faith is a big thing for me, and when things don't make sense and when I need my safe space, I run to God and find solace and comfort in Him. So starting off my day in prayer is paramount, and having that alone time, that quiet time before the hustle and bustle of the day is quite critical. So I think then it would just be hopping into the office. I do try to make time to do a round on campus, see what's happening, check if our students are happy, how things are going. And of course, throughout that, mingling with colleagues and finding out how they're doing, just a quick health check. Are you good? What's the latest? Then you pick up, this is missing, this hasn't been done, and so on and so forth. This is great. These are the achievements. So that's always a great thing to do. And of course, I don't think there's a day that we don't engage as EXCO. So being able to have conversations about how can we grow, what can we do better. And then, of course, thinking about how we can enhance our way of doing things. So the corporate services side, go marketing, how are we doing? Are we recruiting the students? How are the efforts in that regard? And then also in terms of business development, is there anything new? Is there money coming in? And then CPDC, is there training on campus that people have come for? Are people happy? Are they content? And then you'll talk to IDT, the project that internet
IDT is?
Information and Digital Technology. Sorry for that error. So, and then I think the other team would be HR. Are people happy? Are we happy? What's going on? Are we recruiting? So it's busy and trying to kind of touch base with everyone so everyone feels the love and so you know what's going on with everyone can be a challenge, but it's also something that I'm really quite fond of as well.
Yeah. No, I love Baisago University. I mean, let me be honest about that, and I would like to see you guys go in leaps and bounds. So as we get to the end of our conversation, I'd really like to see what we can expect. I would like to hear what we can expect in the next decade or two. What have you guys planned for this this beautiful university that makes us so proud as Botswana? Or we have our own institution, a homebred institution. There are others, but something about the word Baisago even.
Of the future.
Yeah.
No, I think...
Because it means, for those who don't know, it means...
Of the future. So
of the future.
We are those of the future. We are future-minded, future-focused. So that's our premise. So the next decade or 2 decades, of course, we're definitely going to branch heavily into TVET, but this is not something that is technical and vocational education and training. But this is not because
of a lot of acronyms.
Sorry. So Tatahela, the TVET space is something that we have been branching or trying to get into over the last decade, and we've seen that there's an opportunity for us to work with brigades and technical colleges to enhance what they have and to improve on their way of doing things and to bring our expertise. So definitely we expect to have a TVET outfit or a dedicated school for TVET in the same way you have a school of
TVET
mines.
again is?
Technical and vocational education and training. So in the same way in Zim you have a school of mines, we want to be able to have this dedicated school to focus on these technical and vocational.
Department of Mines?
In Zim, they have a school.
But I mean, you want to have a Department of Mines?
We are exploring such kinds of collaborations within this TVET wing, whereby we would branch into the built environment, also the creative industry, and so on and so forth, to be able to also provide training that I think has been overlooked over the years. Another critical thing for us is we really want to branch in a great way into the IT in the digital space, really. And we have envisaged a faculty of engineering and technology, whereby we will be able to offer programs, even in the short learning programs such as artificial intelligence, cloud computing, whereby we're actually still having a lot of Botswana training for these either online or outside of the country. So definitely branching heavily into that space is a critical thing. But a big thing for us is to grow our Francistown and Maun campuses. We do have property in Gerald Estate, go Francistown, Leko Maun, and having our own campuses and moving away from rented spaces. And of course, seeing Maun with its School of Hospitality, as mentioned earlier, and being a hub really for training in that regard. And with Francistown, with its proximity to Zim, where you also have educational institutions that are focused on 5IR and industrialization and commercialization.
Not fourth industrial,
no,
fifth.
Bakopele.
Yeah.
So we want to learn from them, and we believe that Francistown campus is well positioned to draw from these collaborations so that we can empower our people to also be able to commercialize, whether it's their IP or coming and incubating some of their ideas and growing their businesses from there. But there's so many dreams and hopes. Tabaisa.
What do you see in terms of student count in 2 decades, three decades? Two decades.
In 2 decades, if we look at the organic growth of Baisago, at a minimum, we should have surpassed the 10,000 student mark. But we recognize that we can't have the existing infrastructure still in place. We need to expand heavily. So that is
that's
something
in the works, isn't it?
It's in the works. So that's why we're focused quite a lot on looking for investment and capital so that we can also position ourselves to attract more. But a big thing for us is our internationalization agenda. We have only about 1% of our student population being international. And so we want to be able to change.
And yet the lecturers is about half, isn't it?
A significant portion of them. Yes, it's about half actually. I think maybe, 40%. 40%. So we really want to move to a place where we can attract students from not just the SADC region, but in beyond. Recently we had a student who actually came to know about Baisago when we went to Kenya last year to promote ourselves. So having those students come on board, it shows us that there is appetite. There is an opportunity for us to tap into the international space, for us to draw students. So we definitely want to see Baisago global.
When you tap into international space, do they not generally expect boarding facilities?
They do. They do, and it comes back to the investment as well. So
is that something that's in the works?
It's also in the works.
Or are you going to have a boarding section?
There's plenty of space. We don't just have the campus here, Block 7. We also have property, Haboka. So we also, that is actually we had envisaged having one of our projects in line with the agricultural and food science disciplines that we want to introduce. But we have an opportunity in terms of land, it's there for us to be able to have boarding spaces. But it's just a matter of getting the capital and getting that done. But for now, what we do is facilitate and work with, industry partners such as yourselves, where we say, we want, to secure this. So that is our temporary measure until we're able to give them a fully fledged solution on campus.
Yeah. As we wrap up again, you hear a lot of youngsters in the street saying education is no longer as important as it used to be. Bill Gates now doesn't even have a degree. Look at him. Zuckerberg doesn't have a degree, and there are a lot of people who have gone far without formal education. What are you saying about the relevance of education now in this time? And what do you say to those who are saying it's irrelevant, you don't need to have formal education anymore?
Two sides of a coin, always. I get the argument that you may not necessarily need a degree or any formal qualification to make it in life. However, we cannot disregard the fact that education plays a role in building our capacity, our knowledge. And also, it's not just about the technical know-how, but there's soft skills as well that you will have refined when you go through the halls of a varsity. You know, when you underestimate the impact of a group assignment. You learn not just how to work with people, but difficult people. Assignment thing, you see what, but push comes to shove, I have to get it done. So I don't think we can ever disqualify the importance of education. However, what it says to us as players in that space is we have to change with the times. The way that we taught, or the way that our parents were taught 4 decades ago, is not the way that we can be teaching our learners today and 10 years from now. We have ChatGPT, and this is something that I think is quite interesting, whereby a student will work on an assignment, or saying, ChatGPT, write this essay for me, and then submit. And we've actually picked where students have actually used ChatGPT, because some of our lecturers use that and they understand how to pick on these things. But what we need to be saying is not, don't use ChatGPT, but we should be saying,
you're not against it.
Yes, let us change our way of assessing and examining to say, how can we embrace AI? How can we teach our students about responsible use of AI? So for us, it speaks to the need to be versatile and the need to be agile as educational institutions, so that when someone comes for the formal qualification, they actually feel the benefits. So we need to move away from this thing of having programs being mainly theoretical and actually having a more practical inclination to our way of teaching. And that is how we will see people actually wanting to come to learn and grow in terms of their knowledge base.
Okay, so in other words, education is very much relevant.
Yes.
But it has to be changed with the times.
100%.
Meaning there's no room for homeschooling.
Oh, there is. Absolutely, there is. We actually launched our Center for Open and Distance Education late last year. And while the likes of Bo have been around and doing this for many years, so we are just getting into that space.
How does that work?
The open,
because open education, what does that mean? Okay. Is it homeschooling?
It's basically online learning or distance learning.
Yeah.
So before we launched the center, we had hybrid learning, but what now we are investing in, and why IT is so important and so critical, is
using Zoom and Teams.
Whether Mogobe is in Gaborone or in Tanzania or China, if he is interested in one of our programs, he should be able to log onto our platform, our learning management system, and be able to interact with the lecturer, with other students, and even submit assignments, have the exams done online as well. So that's a space that we're still fairly new in era. We've launched the center. We actually have enrolled about it's I think our 3rd semester of having the center operational. And so for us, it's quite critical, because we don't have to have someone coming all the way from Maung for a class because they are doing their masters on block release. So it's a way for us to say we want to provide education for you wherever you are. And so it comes back to us as the institution to say, listen, this is where the world is going. If you're going to keep teaching face-to-face, you're limiting yourselves. But it also presents an opportunity that if you use tech, we're able to then get a larger pool of people and educate through these digital platforms.
Yes. Okay. Right. As we wrap up, there's a chance to hit me with a question.
Oh, yes. As tempting as it is to ask you about real estate, I know that you are an angel investor. They have the Angel Investor Network.
Yeah, A and B.
Yes. And I would love to find out your views on how we as Botswana can not only learn more about, but actually be able to access capital to invest into our projects, our institutions, and not just sourcing that capital locally, but internationally, because it's a challenge navigating that space.
It is a hell of a challenge, and it's one that we've applied our mental resources to. The reason why I formed Angel Network Botswana along with a group of others was that we realized that there was a gap in Botswana. When you're a startup and you have a wonderful idea at ideation stage and you want to put it in front of investors, it's a challenge. So Angel Network Botswana is saying, okay, come with those ideas. We'll assist you or guide you, because I'm a member. I'm actually a co-chair of the mentorship committee of A and B. So we are able to guide you in terms of preparing things like, the business canvas, to help you think clearly about your business idea, and then to pitch, to prepare pitch decks, which you can then bring to investors. So it's something that we've been working on, but the uptake has been very slow. And although there's been significant impact, there are some investees who we have invested in who are doing extremely well. I can mention names, but maybe not in this forum. But there is a way by which you can, if you have. But the ticket is normally low, because you're talking about $500,000 to $1 million to $2 million. If you're talking Baisago billions, maybe that is. But that's angel investing. It's available. It's for those who are startups who need to be guided. And we have systems by which we guide you, or look for you to end up receiving funding. This is the minimum that you need to have done. That's number one. Two, we're also thinking along the lines of private equity. Private equity is not so big in Botswana, and if I think just the top of my head, I can only think of 2 firms that are engaged in that space. So we as Mogobe Incorporated are exploring that space and are seeing how we can partner with institutions that have funds, and also maybe even go into issues of crowdfunding and work on that. But there are investment models which are available in other parts of the world, which are beginning to find footing in Botswana. Until those things mature and they start being tried out, the changes will not be exponential in terms of significant change in our ecosystem. We want to go like this. I get it.
Yeah.
We're right now we're just creeping around slowly like this. So we need our own sort of Silicon Valleys.
Yep.
We need to have our own venture capital companies or VCs established here. It's something that we have to think about. So I think a lot about that, because it's something that I also encountered that was very difficult when I started, and it's an ongoing effort. So my view is that yes, angel investing, venture capital investment, and then private equity. Those are the 3 keys that we have to unlock.
Wonderful.
And some of us are working on that space.
No, I'm keen to see what more you'll do in that space, and I admire it. So I wish you all the best, and I can't wait to see you growing and getting into that space and being a pioneer as well in that regard.
Thank you so much. All right. Is there anything that you and I have not touched on that you want to just cover before we close our conversation?
Oh, I think mine would be an encouragement to, I guess, Botswana to say really...
In that case, let me give you an opportunity to speak to the viewer directly and deliver a final motivational message.
Okay. Rele Botswana, we have yet to really understand the importance of succession planning and building generational wealth. It's not something that we can just talk about. It's something we have to be intentional about. And until we start having these conversations in our families and our communities, it's just simply going to be a myth to us. We see a whole lot of players, not just, we don't have to go international, but we see locally there are a few families that have actually created successful enterprises. Mirele Botswana, we are yet to get to a point where we establish our own entities, and we are intentional about bringing our families on board, and also ensuring that we bring along others who can help us not just establish these visions, but carry them through for many years. So mine is to say to those who have businesses, those who are to establish these businesses, when you think of long-term planning, don't just think of a 5-year strategic plan or 10 years. Think about where you want that entity to be in 20 years, 50 years, and 100 years. And then start to put in place actionable steps that you can put in place for you to be able to ensure that your business stands the test of time, and that your children and their children and their children get to benefit from the same. So that is my little bit for this afternoon.
Wow. That's very powerful. Thank you so much. It remains for me to thank you for not only turning up,
Thank you.
but to officially thank you for the gifts.
Of course, least
that,
you could do.
Guys, hey, I got gifts, man. Look at this, the diary. I've got pens in here. I've got other paraphernalia.
T-shirt.
T-shirt and
a nice bucket hat for you.
yes, and I think I saw what did I do with the hat? Yeah. The hat is here.
Shield yourself from the sun.
Look at this, guys. Yeah, Baisago. So thank you very much. You've been an excellent guest.
Thank you for
Let
having
me take
me.
this opportunity to thank you
Ke a
and to
leboga
thank
rra.
your team.
Thank you so
also.
much for having us.
All right.
Erra.
Bye-bye.